The multiple errors at the hands of who sheriff deputies said were his deputies are what sadly led to the death of a mother court records show was trying to free herself from a toxic relationship.
I'm basically saying we had a chance to save your loved one's life and we failed.
The video I'm going to show is part news coverage of a triple homicide that occurred earlier this month, as well as a press conference by the sheriff within the county. This occurred in Broward County in Florida. What's interesting about this case is there was a series of domestic violence calls that took place over a period of about 6 months. And on each call, the police department and the sheriff's officers failed to take proper investigative steps, which ultimately led up to this incident where the husband of the husband killed his estranged wife and took his daughter. It's refreshing to see the sheriff admitting that this was a failure and that if not for the poor policing, this young woman would be alive. Her name is Mary Gingles. Her husband's name was Nathaniel. She was 34 years old. It's a shame. He's 43 and their daughter is 4 years old. And this case really illustrates what you see on YouTube with these First Amendment, Second, Fourth Amendment audits on how police officers simply fail to grasp the basic tenets of investigative work. They simply have no skills whatsoever. Of course, not all police officers, but too many that is concerning, that they simply have no understanding on how to conduct an investigation, as simple as a suspicious person. And that really is rooted in my opinion, two things: timidity and laziness, both of which erode the basic skills necessary to perform an investigation. Many of these sleepy towns, you'll see it. I'm going to date myself here with the Bob Crane murder, the star of Hogan's Heroes. These murders that happen in these sleepy towns where you have small police departments, they often go unsolved because these police officers and these detectives in these communities don't investigate the smaller crimes effectively. You have burglaries that occur in these towns. Even the most prestigious towns will have burglaries. The legwork for a small crime is much the same as a complex criminal investigation. The more you do something, the better you get at it. And that's why these more complex cases, you'll see it time and time again, these police departments and these police officers contaminate the crime scene, misleads, often get locked in on the wrong people. They simply don't know how to do their job. And that's because of timidity, because the sergeant or your lieutenant doesn't want you to do your job for a variety of reasons. Those that are police officers will exactly get what I'm talking about. And laziness. Cops that are lazy, simply what we call brooming things under the rug so you don't have to do work. The less reports you have to do, in a lot of people's minds, the better. Unfortunately, that's what makes for bad report writing. As you'll see, the sheriff alludes to that here on the police officers responding to this domestic call, had enough information for a probable cause to get a restraining order and maybe put this person behind bars. And the sheriff's officer just simply didn't do the report correctly, whether it be for laziness or whether it be because he's incompetent. All likelihood a combination of those two. But you'll see where the sheriff himself readily admits that if not for their lack of skills, his police department, his officers, this lady would be alive. Unfortunately, this 34-year-old is now dead. This 4-year-old child is left without a mother and certainly is going to be without a father because of poor policing. Let's take a look at the video.
Off the top at 6 tonight, we continue working a developing story, a big shakeup at VSO.
Several deputies have been suspended just days after that tragedy in Tamarack. Let's get right over to Local 10's Roy Ramos. He is live at VSO headquarters with the sheriff's major move.
Janice and Calvin, 7 sheriff deputies suspended, and the sheriff says he will hold those responsible accountable for their actions or lack thereof. That said, he too is taking the blame, but vowing he will do whatever it takes to make sure this doesn't happen again.
This death is on my watch.
Broward Sheriff Gregory Toney saying it was his deputies who dropped the ball in their response and investigation of a domestic violence case that led to a horrific tragedy that rocked a Tamarack neighborhood early Sunday morning.
There will be people that will lose their job over this.
It was just before 6:30. Investigators said 43-year-old Nathan Gingold shot and killed his father-in-law, 64-year-old David Ponzer, his wife Mary, and neighbor, 35-year-old Andrew Farron. As surveillance videos showed, he held his 4-year-old daughter who watched her father on the violent rampage. But it's how deputies responded to that scene that's led to some of the suspensions. 18-year veteran Sergeant Travis Allen said he spotted who we later learned was Nathan leaving the scene with his daughter, but due to the unknown circumstances of the call, deputies continued to canvass the area.
This is just a matter of what I've seen of piss poor performance, complacency, and people not doing their due diligence.
After leaving, Nathan was later tracked down to a Walmart in North Lauderdale and arrested. But the suspensions that involve 1 lieutenant, 2 sergeants, and 4 deputies stem from an investigation into a domestic violence case that includes dozens of calls for service that date back to late last year after Mary had filed for divorce.
There was enough there where we could have potentially pursued a probable cause affidavit so we can arrest them and take them off the street. And that didn't happen.
The multiple errors at the hands of who sheriff deputies said were his deputies are what sadly led to the death of a mother court records show was trying to free herself from a toxic relationship.
I'm basically saying we had a chance to save your loved one's life and we failed.
And we have reached out to the unions that represent the deputies involved here. We are still waiting to hear back. As for the sheriff, well, he says this internal affairs investigation continues, and it's likely that there could be some more suspensions in the future. We'll keep you posted. For now, here in Fort Lauderdale, Roy Ramos, Local 10 News.
As I said, investigative work is a skill set that needs to be continually sharpened. When complacency sets in, officers lose their ability to recognize patterns of behavior and details that can help in an investigation. It erodes their abilities to conduct an investigation. And although the sheriff has taken decisive action by suspending the officers involved in this case, it is evident that there's a deeper issue that exists, a fundamental lack of supervisory oversight and leadership within the law enforcement community. It's a police culture that does not prioritize mentorship, continuous training, or accountability to ensure officers are performing their duties effectively. Far too often, promotions are based not on competency or work ethic, but on favoritism, instead of advancing those who demonstrate strong investigative skills and a commitment to excellence. Police leadership frequently reward officers who focus more on ingratiating themselves with officers. Police leadership frequently rewards officers who focus more on ingratiating themselves with superiors, those who bring the sergeant lunch or drop off coffee for the lieutenant. While such gestures may seem innocuous, they reflect a larger issue, the tendency to promote those who passively respond to calls without initiative or critical thinking, while hardworking and proactive officers remain overlooked.